And here the theme for today is about building wealth, one property at a time. So we have 4 professionals here that are key professionals that will work with us on buying a property, right? So welcome. So we have Vaneide Martins. She's a residential realtor here in Cape Cod. We have Felipe Batista. He's an accountant and the manager for the TBS Tax Services. We have Monica Adwani. She is representing Breezy Seguros. She's a manager on insurance. And also we have Daniela Moraes, and she's the loan officer of our local bank, Cape Cod 5. Welcome. So we'll start with Felipe. So there's a process of buying a property, right? And the first agent that we should always look for is for the accountant, right? So let's learn about how we can get ready. So Felipe, please introduce yourself, tell a little about what TBS Tax Services offers for the clients.
Yeah, so thank you everybody for coming. Want to thank you also for taking time out of your Saturdays. Thank Natalia for putting this event together and helping educate the community one event at a time. One thing that we know, like she said, buying houses is a process. It's complicated. There's a lot of moving pieces, and it's not just one person that's involved. It's a team of people that are involved helping you make your future dream, future property, whatever it may be, come true. So what we try to do, so we have been in the market for 20 years. We have been working with small businesses and individuals, helping them navigate the IRS landscape. It's a different language. I wouldn't even call it English. It's tax law. So we help translate that a little bit and disseminate this information to you. So we help you prepare for taxes, help you plan for taxes, and we also help you prepare your business by doing bookkeeping, payroll, business registrations, consulting. And so we've been in the community for a long time. We like to think of ourselves as a community service. Our first and foremost service is taxes, but we've done everything from being involved with the consulate, assisting with passports. So we have been around the community. And hopefully, like Natalia said, we are your first stop when you go to buy a house. First thing that the bank is going to ask for is taxes. Taxes, pay stubs, bank statements. Taxes are going to be one of the most important factors of getting your process ready. If you are backdated on your taxes, you will probably not be approved. If you are backdated on your filings, you will probably not be approved. All these things need to come together for you to put together the perfect package to buy your house. It's a lot. It doesn't matter if you're backed up 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. What you can't do is make the decision day to night. You can't wake up and say, I want to buy a house today. You have to analyze, your personal funds. You need to see what the changes are going to be for you and your family. And however we can help you understand that a little bit better, that's how we're here to help. I will mention one more thing. This year, there's a new tax law that just came out for the state of Massachusetts. They just announced it, which is a tax penalty amnesty. Very, very cool. That means that if you owe back taxes and you owe any penalties on these taxes, you should receive a letter from the state of Massachusetts saying that you don't owe money on those penalties anymore. There is a process that you have to go through the state where you can ask for an abatement of these penalties. But I have clients who are receiving letters that they can save $10,000, $12,000, maybe it's $100 with the state, and this is only from now until December. So especially if you guys are going to think about buying a house with one of these excellent professionals here, please come talk to me, see what your options are, and don't overwhelm yourself. Taxes are overwhelming. Let me help you simplify that a little bit. That's me.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Felipe. So, Daniela, can you introduce us about what Cape Cod 5 Bank can offer us, right? Your loan office, what you can offer for us and the services.
Yes, definitely. Natalia, thank you for having us here. It's a pleasure to be here with these respected professionals in the field. Also, thank you everyone for your time, your Saturday morning. I am a residential mortgage loan officer for Cape Cod 5. It's a local bank, and I've been with Cape Cod 5 for 10 years, and before that I was with National Bank for 2 years. And so Cape Cod 5 is a local bank since 1855, and it's a bank that cares about the community. It's number one market on the Cape and Islands, serving residential lending. And the bank has many products, loan products, meant for first-time home buyers and to serve the local communities. So other than your regular first-time home buyer programs, the bank offer many in-house programs for locals and residents on the Cape, Islands, and Massachusetts, and also New Hampshire.
Okay, thank you. So Monica Edwin from Breezy Seguros, can you tell us what does Breezy Seguros offers, what type of insurance, and what they can offer for the home buyers and also entrepreneurs, the insurances that you carry?
Perfect. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for being here on Saturday. My name is Monica. I represent Breezy Seguros. I'm one of the owners of Breezy Seguros. We focus on habitational and residential, which means that we not only do your regular home, but we also help investors. We also help people that it's buying investment properties and whatnot. In that regard, we help with pretty much everything that has to do with the purchase of the property. So that means, a homeowner's policy or renter's policies for your tenants, or the insurance for the investment property because you bought a multi-service property. That means you have a business on the bottom, apartments on the top, or you just bought a property for a business. We can certainly help on all those aspects of the purchase.
Okay, thank you. Vanage Martins, a realtor, can you tell us what services that you can offer us and how you can assist?
Good morning. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you all for coming. Yes, I'm Van Martins Vanage. Everybody calls me Van. I am a realtor with Weicker Realtors, Donahue Partners, and I've been with Weicker for about 7 years now. I cover Cape Cod and Plymouth, and also I am bilingual. So one of the things that I like being bilingual that I can help the community, not only the Brazilians, but also anyone who speaks also English and Portuguese. So my goal is to work with my buyers or sellers to make them happy. And I am to work with them on their behalf and make sure they can find the property that fits their needs. Or what, like people say the dream, but sometimes the dream, that's not what they really can afford at the time. But at least they can start somewhere. And this is where I come after they go through, the process of being pre-approved and work with the taxes. And after they find the house, that's when Monica comes to get the insurance that we call the binder. So, but I'm here to help, yeah.
Thank you, Vanage. So let's start. So Felipe, tell us what tax benefits are available for first-time home buyers and how can they maximize these?
Sure. So I get these questions a lot, and I've been trying to help clients even who are thinking about buying a house already prepare for the future. So two big distinctions that we got to make. There's the personal property and the business property. Business is going to be anything that's rented out. So if I buy, a property that I'm just going to rent out, business. Two very different advantages. So if it's just my personal home, biggest thing that I can take advantage of is the mortgage interest deduction. Okay, the principal does not matter for your taxes. It is just the mortgage interest deduction. You should receive a Form 1098 mortgage interest statement at the beginning of the year with the rest of your tax documents. And this document will have the mortgage interest, the property taxes, the PMI that you pay, and points that you may have purchased. So the points, the interest, and the PMI are all tax deductible. I would make sure that you talk to your tax professional because it might not make a difference in your taxes, okay? Depending on how you deduct your personal expenses, it may not make a difference. But obviously, bring your taxes to me. I can help you sort through that. Another big thing that you can take advantage of is energy efficient credits. So the government is providing a lot of credits so you can make energy efficient improvements in your home. So anything that helps you retain, the heat or the AC, things like doors, windows, insulation, and the biggest thing is solar panels. Solar panels offers a 30% credit on the total cost. So if I finance a solar panel for $100,000, I can get a $30,000 credit, which is very different from a deduction. When you come to sit down with me, I'll talk to you about that as well. But, and this can carry forward depending on the year, depending on how your tax situation is. You might not be able to use all of it, but you can carry it to further years. There's also a deduction within the state. So, credit within the state. So there's definitely different areas where you can take advantage of that. But then the biggest question is, what if I make an improvement in my house, like a bathroom or a kitchen? Typically, you can't really take advantage of anything unless it's those energy efficient improvements until the sale of the house. And this is the biggest thing that I tell clients when they purchase the house is, even though it doesn't matter now, it will matter later. Because just because you may have thought that you got a loss on the house, or depending on what you think you may have gained or lost, it might not be the reality. Sit down with your tax professional when you sell your house, before you sell your house. Let's estimate for you. Let's do a simulation of how much you're going to pay in taxes. And all these repairs that you've had are going to help reduce that final number that you have. Because if you bought a house for $200,000 and the market shot up in the last few years, I'm sure everybody here in this area knows, you're selling your house now for $600,000, $700,000, there's going to be a lot to pay in taxes. There's different opportunities that we can take advantage of, but please come and talk to me and I can provide you a simulation of what that looks like. Now for rental property, this is one of the best investments in terms of taxes that you can make, because most rental properties, and I can go in further questions about why, but most rental properties typically end up at a loss. I have a lot of clients that are scared to tell me that they have a rental property because they think they're going to pay taxes. So if most years it comes out at a loss, what that does, it helps reduce whatever other income you have. If you made $100,000 in your regular job, but then you had a loss of $10,000, $20,000 in the rental property, you will reduce the amount of taxes that you're paying on top of that $100K. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. There's a lot of ways that we can take advantage of these losses. And the difference with the rental too, everything is deductible. Everything, all your improvements, you change out a doorknob, you change out a window, you paint the house, everything becomes deductible. So let's plan for that, and let's figure out the best way that we can structure also the commercial or the personal.
Thank you, Felipe. Now let's ask Daniela. So Daniela, what are the key differences between conventional loans, the FHA loans, the VA loans, and the USDA loans, and which is typically best for the first time buyers?
Okay, so the key differences between the FHA, conventional, USDA, and VA loans are usually the credit scores, the down payments, and the requirements for each loan. Specifically for the FHA, the minimum down payment is 3.5%, and it allows a lower credit score. For the conventional loan, the minimum down payment required is 3%, and usually in general, the minimum credit score requirement is around 620 or above. The VA loans are reserved for VA eligible buyers, so they have to be veterans, military members, and their spouses. And for USDA loans, they're usually reserved for specific areas in the country, which are considered rural areas. So the best, usually what we say about the best program for first-time home buyer is to sit with a loan officer and go through your specific scenario. A lot of home buyers, they reach out to us and they ask, what are the different loan programs that you offer? What are the requirements? Which is very normal for somebody to ask, but we don't want to give you the work. We would like to analyze your situation and find out what's the best loan product, loan program for your needs, because it really varies from scenario to scenario for your individual needs.
Thank you, Daniela. Vaneji, so we have a question for you. So can you explain the home buying process step by step from making an offer to closing?
Yes, it's a progress. Let's put it this way. First of all, it's when Daniela comes. We need a pre-approval. Is the first thing that we need is the type. We need to know what type of loan she or he has been approved with. So FHA, for example, they allow certain things on the property to pass with the appraisal. Conventional is different. So if FHA, if a person is approved with FHA, if a roof needs to be replaced, they're probably not going to get approved, or then it's not going to go through when appraisal is done. So Daniela can help me out later. She can talk about it a little bit more. So it's important to know what kind of pre-approval or program the person has in their hands, so we know what type of properties we're going to be able to show our clients. Once we have an offer in and is accepted, we have about 10 days to do the home inspection. And if the buyer likes the results of the home inspection, the report, then we have about 3 to 5 days to prepare the purchase and sale. So the purchase and sale, that's when the lawyers come in. They have to go through every single details of the purchase of the property, and then we submitted that purchase and sale to the bank, and that's when they order the appraisal. So they're gonna work with the loan officer to get the process in order, and then we get about, I would say, 30 days for a commitment. So that's why Felipe said it's a teamwork, because one depends on another. So when we have the commitment in, it's when the lawyers set up the closing, and that's when we have that closing, and the new owner becomes, and get the key, becomes a new homeowner. So it's a long process. It's overwhelming. It can be overwhelming because a lot of paperwork is involved. On that point, it's, during the process of the purchase and sale to the commitment, the insurance binder needs to be in, and that's how we all communicate to make sure that we meet those dates. It's very important to meet the dates. So pretty much that's the process of buying a property.
Thank you, Vanage. So now the next question will go to Monica. So Monica, what types of homeowners insurance coverage are available, and which options are essential for first-time buyers?
All right, very heavy question because it all depends on the type of property that you are purchasing, right? So if you're buying a property that you are going to be living in it, right, which is your primary home, regardless if it's a multifamily or, it's just a single family, there is a product called the homeowners or HO3 policy, right? Those are the technical terms in insurance. And that policy can go for a single family or for a multifamily as far as you are living in it, right? Now, you could be buying a secondary home here on the Cape, right? And that's a little bit of a different insurance, because you might be able to play a little bit with the personal property, because maybe you don't have a lot of things in that house, and maybe you're planning to renting it out, and that's going to require a different type of homeowners insurance. Usually it's called a dwelling fire, or it could be placed on a business owner policy as well that provides property coverage. if you are purchasing, let's say, a building that is a mixed-use building, then we go into what it's called the business owner policy, that even though it's called a business owner, it can be used for a person, an investor buying a property. So there exist at least 6 to 7 different kinds of homeowner products, depending on the usage that you will be giving that specific property.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So coming back to you, Felipe, what should first-time buyers know about property taxes, and how can they estimate these costs for their financial planning?
Sure, that's actually a really good point. And I want to bring back what Monica said and what Daniela mentioned, that it depends and it varies. If your tax person isn't responding, it depends to most of your questions, you should probably get a new tax person. But it does really depend, but it's an important factor to weigh in, right? If we're talking about financial wellness, when you're making this decision to buy the first home, what are you actually going to spend to get into that house? We have closing costs, we have the insurance, we have the taxes that you might owe. If your income is higher that year, you may not be able to reduce it. And plus the property taxes. Property taxes are going to vary by area, vary by size, but property taxes, condo fees, these are all additional costs that get, merged in to the maintenance or the purchase of your home. Property taxes, though, are going to be tax deductible as well, up to a certain limit. You can only deduct up to $10,000 in property taxes a year, but that also gets merged in with the state tax that you pay with your W-2 if you're an employee, or if you pay any excise taxes on your vehicles as well. So the personal property tax, it's gonna depend, varies, but there are some tax benefits from that as well.
Thank you, Felipe. So next, Daniela. So Daniela, tell us, how does the pre-approval process work, and how can it benefit first-time home buyers during their search?
Okay, great question. So how the pre-approval process works is, once you've decided that you are ready to purchase a home, or that you like to, get started in the process of purchasing a home, or the next few months, or in the next year, or even 2 years from now, it's important to meet with a professional, meet with a loan officer that will analyze what your current financial scenario is, and be able to tell you how much you would pre-approve for right now, if there's anything that needs to be improved in order for you to be able to afford possibly the property that you like to purchase. Most of the time, customers, when they reach out and they really don't know anything about the process, they would like to learn about the process. They don't know, how much the property that they like to purchase would cost. So then we would try to look at what would be the maximum that home buyer would pre-approve for, and look at the different down payment options, the different loan options, how much the monthly payment would be, how much reserves they need to have in the bank, which products they can use, gift funds. If somebody would be able to give them a gift, they would be able to use that towards the purchase. And so it really helps, the pre-approval process helps the home buyer understand how much they can afford, and if there's anything that they need to do in order to get pre-approved to purchase the home that they would like to purchase, and also to understand how much that monthly payment would be. If it's really to see, is that something that's doable for them, that they feel comfortable making that payment monthly for the next 30 years. So that's very important. And how the pre-approval would help first-time home buyers is really give them that guidance. And let's say if they're ready to purchase a home now, then they would, get pre-approved and have a pre-approval letter. And with that pre-approval letter, they would be able to then go to their realtor, corretora, to their realtor, and start that home search. And so they would have met with Felipe, they would have done their taxes, then they come to me, and then we would be able to pre-approve them, look at their scenario, and then they would start, the fun part with the realtor.
Okay, so next, let's go to Vaughn. Vaughn, so, so what should buyers look for during property showings, and are there any red flags they should be aware of?
Well, if they are looking for a move-in ready, they should look if that's the kitchen they want to have. You know, if it's very convenient for them to cook in there. The size of the bedrooms. If there are any issues with the property, if there is any leaks, if there is any replacement that needs to be made. So when it depends on the pre-approval, like I said earlier, if it's a conventional, they can, you know, if they can do some work by themselves, it's helpful. They can, you know, they bring the house to where they want to. If it's FHA, it's more like it needs to be like a move-in ready sometimes. So the most important, it's what the house needs. It's really the house you can see yourself living in for, I would say, at least 10 to 15 years, because the average that the people live in, you know, in a house when they buy, it's about 7 to 10 years. So you don't want to move into a property to buy a property and see, after they move in, I don't like this house. So it's your, you know, safe haven. So that's the most important purchase that you do in your life. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you, Vaughn. So going to Monica. Monica, how is the cost of homeowners insurance calculated, and what factors influence premiums?
So it's very difficult for me to explain that question, because everybody is like, oh, but how much am I going to pay? And I was like, I cannot tell you that. You know, your neighbor is never going to pay the same as you do. And all the houses, basically the process that we need to follow, we have to run what is called a replacement cost. And that replacement cost has to be at 100% in order for you to close on the loan, right? And it has nothing to do with the market value or how much are you paying or how much that loan is going to be. The replacement cost is basically the cost of how much the insurance company is going to spend in order to rebuild your house from the ground up if you were to have a total loss. And all outside factors really don't matter. So right now, with inflation costs going up so much, we are experiencing that the replacement cost of the properties are coming about 40 to 60% more than they were before. Hence, the insurance cost is also going up because it is more expensive to do reconstruction. It is more expensive to pay for, you know, the contractors. It is more expensive to buy materials. So it is going to be more expensive to buy a property now and to insure a property now than it was 3 years ago. So for me to answer that question not directly, you know, the things that are taken into considerations are the replacement cost, the condition of the property. Here in Massachusetts, the credit score is not taken into consideration, but it's considered an insurance score, which takes a look at your history on your insurance in all different aspects of it. It takes into consideration the frequency of losses within the area. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your loss. It can be the loss of any houses or anything around the area that you're living in. We also look for, you know, flood risks, et cetera, et cetera. So there are many, many, many factors. There's hundreds of factors that are taken into consideration, but the primary factors are those, along with the area that you are moving into.
Thank you. So let's go back to Felipe. So talking about investment properties, what deductions are available for rental property owners, and how can they reduce taxable income from the rental income? Because you mentioned that there are some possibilities there.
There are. There's a lot of possibilities there. So with the rental property and the investment property, like I mentioned, you can pretty much deduct any costs related to the maintenance and the repairs and the, et cetera, of that property. So the mortgage interest, the insurance, the cutting of the grass, the cleaning, the administration fees. If you pay for a software that you use to maintain the rental, also that. So all these micro costs get thrown in year after year. This is why, especially if you have an investment property, every year it's good to sit down with your tax planner and say, this year you're going to pay a lot in taxes. Maybe it's worthwhile. You make that investment that's going to make your property worth more later, but now it's going to reduce your taxes. So it's a win-win at the end of the day. Now, the biggest thing, though, is there are limitations depending on the amount of time that you spend, if the property is completely yours. There's a few different ways that we can track that year from year, and there's ways that you can carry forward some of these losses that maybe you can't take 100% this year, but you can certainly always use these losses at some point. Even though you can't take it this year, it'll carry forward. You can take it next year. And the biggest thing that I'll say is depreciation. Depreciation is a magic word for everybody. It is the recognition of the loss of value of any kind of asset that might be in your name. Now, with properties, it's kind of tough to paint that picture because properties don't necessarily lose value. Cars do. Cars, it's a little bit easier. So the IRS, whenever you buy any kind of asset, and it's going to be in the business for more than 1 year, and the property more than 1 year, you have to depreciate it. If I buy a new kitchen appliance and I spend $2,000, I can't take that expense all that first year. I have to break it up over however long the IRS says that that's useful for. 7 years, 5 years. So for properties, it's 27 years. So what is depreciation, though? It's an expense. It is a straight expense that shows up on your tax return. And it's not money that you're taking out of your pocket, but what they do is you take the total cost of your property, let's say it was $500,000, split it up by 27 years, and then you take that amount every single year as an expense. So think about it. Without you doing anything, without taking any money out of your pocket, you are already getting a $10,000 expense, $15,000, $20,000 expense, face value. So with the depreciation and with your income, typically you're at a very thin line of I'm kind of making money or I'm zeroed out. But then add in all those other expenses. So that's why I was saying a lot of times, and most of the time, your rental property should come out negative because of depreciation, because you're investing in it, and because, year after year, there should be, I don't imagine you're going to jump your rent from $2,000 to $5,000 from 1 year to the other. And if you do, please talk to your accountant, but we can plan around that. So a lot more flexibility in terms of improving your house and getting advantages from it.
Thank you. So now for Daniela, about investment property, how does the mortgage qualification process differ from investment properties compared to primary residences?
Okay, so just so we can kind of define what a primary home would be and an investment property would be. So in my world with residential lending, a primary home will be where you'd be living in, and a investment property will be a property where somebody else is going to be living in, and it could be a property that's either 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units, or 4 units. So up to 4 units. It's still considered a residential investment. So this, for the primary home, we would be analyzing the home buyer's finances. So the financial scenario would be the credit history, the stable income, and the assets that the person has. So which would be, the total funds that the buyer has deposited into his bank accounts, which would be used towards down payment, towards closing costs, and reserves of a property, on the purchase of a property. And on an investment property, the difference would be that the bank would still analyze the buyer's financial scenario, make sure that the buyer makes enough, has enough income to take care of his own personal bills and expenses, and has also reserves to purchase this new investment property. Usually the minimum down payment is 25% on an investment property. And we can ask for, when we ask for the appraisal for that investment property, we can ask for something called a rental schedule, which means that we would be able to use the rental income from that property. If it's either 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4 unit property, we would be able to use rental from all those units for qualifying on top of your current employment income, or however your income is.
And thank you, Daniela. Thank you. So now let's go back to Van. Van, so going towards investment properties, what are the key differences between buying a primary residence and an investment property?
Well, so like I said before, the key thing on buying your first-time home buyer or your first home is you have to see yourself living in for a certain period of time. Investment property, it's not like that because you're not going to be living in, but you have to look around and see what the property offers, and also the neighborhood is a very point. If you're looking to, like Cape Cod is a vacation area, so if you're planning to rent as a summer home, you would be nice if you could see the area, if it's close to the water, if it's close to the town or a pond, or if you're looking for some, a property to rent year-round, then something that to look into it's how close is the transportation. If someone wants to go to work and don't have a car, or the distance for walking, things like that. So, and also if the rent that you're going to be earning is going to be able to cover your expenses. So that's the most important thing, because you don't want to, on the end of the month, end up with an extra expense that you have to cover besides what you already have for yourself.
So Monica, so the next question. So what type of coverage is recommended for landlords to protect rental properties and tenants?
Okay, perfect. So for landlords, there is 2 options that they can choose from. There is a dwelling fire policy that provides just enough coverage for the property, and there is a business owner policy. For me, it is always good to go with the business owner property, because you can not only have the property per se covered, but there is a lot more protection from a liability standpoint. You can buy up to $4 million of coverage within the business owner policy. You can also have, loss of rents at a higher amount than the dwelling fire policy. You can also include in there personal property. So let's say that you have a common laundry in the basement, or you have you offer other things within your commercial building, or 3-decker or 4-family, right? Anything over 5-family, you need to have a business owner policy. You don't have a choice. But from 1 to 4-family is an option. After a 5-family or a multi-use building, you have to have a business owner. So it provides a more comprehensive, more broad coverage, and it protects you better as a landlord. Now, the most important thing for a landlord, besides the policy, is the contract with the tenants. And that contract with the tenants have to exclude the things that are excluded on the policy. So, for example, the contract for the landlord with the tenants should have listed that, no pool can be installed without, a fence, that there is a naughty list of animals that are not permitted. I cannot say specifically dogs, but there is a specific list of animals that you cannot have on the property. And if you are going to have them, you need to have the tenant secure insurance for themselves. And then the other clause that should be in there is that the tenants should have their own renter's insurance, because the landlord is not responsible for any liability that happens with the tenants. So in order for the landlord to protect himself, right, and its property, the contract has to be set up in a way that avoids and transfers all the liability to the tenants, and they should have the tenants have their own insurance for that.
Okay, thank you, Monica. So let's go back to Felipe. So Felipe, about the residential or the investment properties, are there any taxes advantages on refinancing a mortgage, and what should homeowners or investors know before refinancing?
Well, when it comes to refinancing, from my side, it's kind of what I've already discussed. If you're refinancing, the biggest thing you're going to consider is, well, why am I refinancing? Usually it's to lower your interest. So if you're a person that depends on this mortgage interest deduction every single year, and you're getting, $15,000 of a deduction every year, and you decide to refinance, be aware of what that difference is also going to make in your taxes. The refinancing, I know, is a long process. The closing costs, which I think you pay again when you refinance, those are all deductible within the investment property. But again, your personal property, if it's just your primary residence, you're refinancing. Only thing I'd be aware of really is the interest deduction change.
Okay, thank you. So Daniela, how do interest rates typically vary between primary residence loans and investment property loans?
Okay, so usually there's a larger variety of loan programs, loan products that can be used for primary properties. And usually for investment properties is conventional loan with 25% down payment. I think that would be the biggest difference. And the interest rate is usually, so let's say a conventional loan on a primary property and then a conventional loan on an investment property, that would be approximately, so it varies between, the different scenarios, the customer, what their credit scores are. So it varies from buyer to buyer, but usually it's approximately close to a percentage, the difference on the rate.
So
On the interest rate.
following up when you mentioned, what are some best practices for maintaining a strong credit profile for future real estate investments or refinancing options?
That's a really great point to talk about, which is maintaining the least amount of that on your credit as possible. If you have a credit card, it's important to use up to 25% of the credit card's limit, and if you're able to, always pay it down to zero every month. If not able to, then try to keep lower than 25%. Also, just keep all of your debts on your credit as low as possible. That will help you qualify, maintaining, a higher credit score, a stronger credit. So it's good to have, if you have a few credit cards that you use, keep it to a minimum as possible. Usually having, National Bank's credit cards, they're usually better than store credit cards. I don't want to mention any, store names, but usually national banks, they have higher credit limits, and the higher the credit limit on your credit card, the lower the percentage that you use when the credit limit is higher. So that's a really good practice. Limit the amount of credit cards that you open and use the ones with the higher credit limits. Yes.
Can I add something to hers? Just because same thing happened to my friend recently. He's trying to purchase a house, and look at your credit. Make sure you really review your credit. They found 2 delinquencies from years ago that he didn't even know existed. It was a store credit card. It was finance for something that he bought, but this is completely halted his purchase process, and he was right at the finish line. So make sure to pull up your credit score and review it first, for sure.
Let's give it back to me. No, yeah, that's a great point. Also, monitoring your credit You can always download an app on your phone that you can see exactly the percentage that you've used for each credit card, if there are any delinquencies, if there was any fraud. So that's also important. You can always pull your reports from each credit bureau every year for free. So that's a great point, Philippe. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. So Van, what role does the real estate market cycle play in buying decisions, and how can buyers determine the best time to buy?
Well, I would say the best time to buy it's when you can pay, right? So sometimes people, like come to me and say, "Well, is this a good time to buy? Can you pay the property? Because if you can pay the property, it's a good time because it's a real estate. You can never lose. If you buy now, sometimes people get concerned if the prices will go down. If you keep paying, 30 years is yours, right? Just keep in mind, everything's going to be yours in 30 years, plus the equity that the property builds up. So I would say the best time, it's just be ready and be prepared to pay your property. Yeah.
And thank you. Monica, what documentation is needed to file a claim, and what are the best practices for filing a successful claim?
Okay. So a claim is a very, very stressful time because, especially if it's in the property, maybe you lost everything and there is nothing there to talk about. It's just gone. So I will say, if it's a partial loss, right, that your house is not totally gone, the most important thing is first, gather any documentation, anything important to you within the home, right? Because the process of filing a claim, you're going to have support from appraisers. You're going to have support from the claims mitigation team. There is going to be an open investigation. Usually claims take anything between 6 months to 12 months to settle. And if it's an investment property or, a bigger loss, let's say, where's this place we're in today, this can take up to 36 months, right? So it depends on the loss of that specific location. If you're emotionally okay, take pictures, make sure that you record videos. During your time on the home, we always recommend our clients that every year take pictures and store them somewhere in a Google folder or somewhere so you can have proof of what property you had inside your house, right? Because the biggest problem is the personal property. The house will be rebuilt. The house will have the kitchen, the bathroom, everything up to date, beautiful. It will come out nice. But the biggest problem that we encounter is like you never had an inventory of what you owe. So let's say you had like a collection of Louis Vuitton bags. I'm sorry, they're not going to be replaced. You're only going to get enough amount to get started, right? So having an inventory of everything you own, it's extremely important. Couple things. If you have jewelry that it's worth or appraised at more than $5,000, you should have an appraisal and you should have it scheduled on your policy, not just I think it's going to get paid, right? If you are an arts collector, that art collection needs to be scheduled on your policy separately from personal property. If you have, very expensive items, you should schedule those on your policy rather than thinking that the personal property will cover for them. So there is a limit to what is paid on personal property, and it is important for you to schedule anything other than, that's basically the words that appear, that is important to you and that is appraised in an amount that you will not be able to recover if that items is lost. So basically, every year take an inventory, take a video, take pictures, save your receipts, right? If you bought that $5,000 couch that you love so much, save the receipts, save everything. Work with your accountant so they can have it in your file. Like in the bookkeeping side, that's extremely important. You need to treat your house as a business, right? Like if you purchase, let's say, people go all out in the kitchens. that's that's the most expensive thing is the kitchen. If you bought your appliances and that fridge, fridges now are going for like $8,000, like with all the technology and everything. You need to have that recorded. Otherwise, you're just gonna get a double door Kenmore for like $2,500 and you're all set, right? So having all of that with your bookkeeper or there's many apps too that you can get inventory. So I will say, schedule the important things on your policy and keep an inventory. After that, the claim will flow and if nothing is found that was malicious intent, you will be okay. But the most important aspect of that is the personal property.
So, even though sometimes the insurance might not be able to cover it all, because that might happen, you don't have exactly the documentation for everything, there's still a way for us to help you within your taxes. So let's say insurance covers 70, 80, 90%. That last little percentage, maybe we can help you through your taxes, especially people who have gone through federally declared disasters, hurricanes, storms, earthquakes, snowstorms, anything. The people who were affected in Vermont and the New England area last year, I had a lot of clients that had to bring me exactly the receipts, the documentation of the personal property, sofas, clothes, all that stuff. Insurance paid, FEMA paid, and then we could also help them out within the taxes. So yes, please keep your receipts in general. Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions for our participants? For any doubts, clarifications?
For the pre-approval, I need two years of tax returns, right? But 2022 is not as strong as 2023. Could I use like a profit and loss for 2023 to move forward? Or should I just wait until 2023 taxes is done?
Yes, hi Alana. Excellent question. So the bank will always ask for the most recent 2 years of tax returns for all buyers, regardless if they're self-employed or if they're enrolled in payroll in another company, and if they're an employee of a company. So the bank will ask for those 2 full years of tax returns, and depending where we are in the year, we can also use the profit and loss. But the bank will ask for those 2 years. So let's say if 2022 wasn't as strong as 2023, and you are in the process of buying a home, but you're not in a rush to jump and buy a home at the moment, then it's better to just wait until the beginning of next year, file your taxes for 2024 that you had a higher income. So then we can use the average of the 2 most recent years, which will be 2023 and 2024. Awesome. You're welcome.
Marty.
Being in the Chamber of Commerce world, I meet many business owners who want to come down here on the Cape. So let me paint this scenario. Business owner has a C corporation, has a salary, also has equity and stock in the C corporation. Will that C corporate stock, which has value, be able to be used in a mortgage?
Is that a question for me or for Philippe?
It's a universal question.
I personally don't think it would be. I don't think it'd be able to be used just because, do you guys take
Would
into
you like to?
No, I have a question for you, actually.
Okay.
And there would be a dividend component needed here too because of that profit loss. Would that be included? And it wouldn't be on a Schedule C per se, it would be on that stuff.
Yes. So the bank would use the W-2 payroll income for qualifying, And if that home buyer has over 25% of ownership on that company, then we would use the income from the company for qualifying as well. Did that answer your question? Awesome. Yes.
Can you just talk a little bit about the debt to income ratio and how that affects, between conventional and also FHA, DTI, how they calculate.
Yes, definitely. So usually how the bank calculates the DTI ratio, which is the debt to income ratio, is your total monthly expenses, including all of your housing expenses, which is the principal and interest that you're paying on a mortgage, the taxes paid to the town, the property taxes, and the homeowner's insurance on the property, as well as if you have, private mortgage insurance, which is an insurance of the mortgage that's also included in the housing expenses, and then your other debts, which are also included in a total debt to income ratio, which would be any minimum monthly payments on your credit cards, your auto loan payments, anything that's reported to your credit, that goes into the debt to income ratio. And so that is a percentage usually of your maximum debt to income ratio on a conventional loan. It can go up to 50%, but there are some loan programs that for first-time home buyers or special loan programs, they usually go only up to 41% or 45% of your income. So let's say, for example, somebody that makes $10,000 a month, they could only have up to $4,500 of monthly debt. That's including all of your housing expenses, the mortgage, plus your other debt. And then with FHA allows to have the housing expenses of up to 46%, and then your total debt, which includes credit cards, minimum monthly payments on student loans and auto loans or any other installment loans that you have, can go up to 57%. So it's a pretty big difference. That's why FHA loans is really good for first-time home buyers or anyone that has a higher debt compared to their income. Anything else? Okay, yes.
Thank you. Anyone else has any questions? No questions? Oh, Rose.
It's not a question, but I will say thank you for the team. You had a good point. Now I learn more about the process. Say thank you so much.
I just want to say something. I want to thank Natalia International Relations for getting this together. It's always very helpful. I think it's very important for the community to be aware of what they can do. They can prepare themselves. There are many people out there that think they're not ready to buy, and they are. And sometimes people think they are ready, and they are not. So if you have any questions, please reach out to us. We are always available. It's a pleasure to help. It's a pleasure to see people accomplishing their goals. So we are here to help. Thank you so much, Natalia. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you. And thank you so much for accepting my invitation to come to us. So I have a little mug. So I run by coffee. So this is Entrepreneurship Coffee Hour. Brand. Okay. So this means if you're getting a mug, then you're invited to my Instagram show or my podcast. So just give me a call. So I launched. We have an information table up front. You probably have seen it. I launched my YouTube channel last month. So I interview entrepreneurs and community leaders. So if any of you are interested, just give me a call. I'm recording now here in Main Street in a professional studio here in Main Street. The Latino Business Network happens once a month. If you're interested to come on the next months, I'll reach out to you. I'll send an invitation. I hope you can come back, bring another friend. And I'm always bringing in different entrepreneurs with different themes so we can learn more about businesses, investing, how to protect our business, and all those great stuff. And also, I'd like to let you know that we started to organize the Cape Cod International Business Expo, and it's going to be March of 2025. As soon as I get a date, I will hopefully by January we'll be starting to do the promotion, and I hope all of you can come. Cape Cod 5, TBS, Tax Service has been the great sponsors for that, and also now Hyannis Chamber is helping out. So let's keep in touch and let's keep this moving. And I'm very happy that all these professionals said yes, and all of you were able to commit on your Saturday morning to be here with us. And I really appreciate it. Many have registered, but you chose to be here. So thank you so much. I appreciate all of you.